Okay, so Cal, that's the technology side of this, but how about the other side of this, the kind of the legal, ethical, social, and moral ramifications, and kind of the critical thinking skills that will be required to kind of navigate this world? It's still hypothetical, I get it, the hypothetical world, but
Yeah.
how should higher education be talking and educating students about those implications? Again, hypothetical, but how should we be thinking about that side of it?
Yeah, I think writing is something I've been looking into, and I think this is like a good case study probably, like for these issues. Like, how do we think about, for example, text produced by a model from your prompting versus like text you produce from scratch versus text that you got from somewhere else, and like where does that actually fall sort of ontologically on the sort of authorship spectrum there? I think that's an interesting question. What does it mean which is, by the way, is how most students who are using this to write right now are, for the most part, for non-trivial assignments, aren't producing and submitting text. They're interacting with the model. They're also producing bad text, and then they're editing it into good text. So how do we feel about that? I think that, for example, is like actually a new pedagogical activity that like didn't exist before. It's easier to edit bad text just from a cognitive functioning perspective than facing the blank page. So how do we think about that, right? Those are the big questions, I think. Now, I think we have some historical cases here that are relevant. I mean, I think that by far the biggest comparable disruption really was the internet plus like a usable way of accessing the internet, basically Google. We have, just through familiarity, memory hold a little bit how disruptive that was. I was a student back when that happened, but it made for, I mean, a lot of changes happened here, right? You could get access to text. Like, we didn't really have to worry in writing as much about plagiarism because it was like you're copying text out of a textbook or someone's like professional academic book that they turned their dissertation into. No one's going to believe the sophomore wrote that. But now you could have access to lots and lots of text. It was a big crisis in computer science because you could Google code. It really became a whole thing where you would, professors got good at being like, you clearly copied and pasted this code in because of the way we never had to worry about that before. When I was studying computer science, and man, I wish this was still the case now that I'm a computer science professor, the exercises in the back of the book is how you practice. Professors would hone the problems in the back of the book over like a generation. These things had gone through years and years of polishing and adjustments, and they were fantastic problems. And then you get like 1 year into the Google universe and you can just find all the sample solutions. And like, it was the end of being able to use problems from the back of the book, right? It changed the way we talked about plagiarism. It introduced the notion of plagiarism to computer science, which didn't exist before. It changed the way we had to create assignments. This seems comparable to me. Like, I mean, I think this is like Google arrival in the university take two, at least this early stage.